Welcome back, everyone, to another Captain Patriot video. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I was scrolling through YouTube today, came across a pretty interesting video titled Modesty is So Crazy. So I was interested, I clicked on it and I watched it, and this individual has some interesting opinions. So I thought I would make a reaction video to it, add my thoughts. And yeah, so without further ado, let's start watching this video.
Whoever invented the concept of modesty clearly has never met a human. Either that or it was invented for the opposite reason that
Really? So the person or group of people who invented modesty or the concept of modesty has never met another person. That seems ridiculous, but okay, carry on.
they claim. Because telling somebody not to look at something is like human 101. You say don't do it, they're gonna do it. It's how people work. So
Okay, well, that's a gross simplification of how people, quote unquote, work, right? Human psychology is extremely complex and doesn't hold true for every single person. However, this idea that just telling someone not to do something is what pushes people to go and do that thing is not the truth, okay? It's curiosity, right? They might not have been aware of that thing prior, and so if it's a new concept to them, they might be more tempted to do that. You see this a lot with drugs, right? And that's why you have things like gateway drugs, where marijuana is considered a gateway drug. However, if you look at people and you say, don't try marijuana, I don't think that alone directly drives them to go and want to try marijuana, assuming they've already heard of marijuana and know what it is, right? So just telling someone not to do something is really not what pushes people to go do something. It's the curiosity aspect of it's human nature, right? Humans are curious creatures. We want to understand the world. We want to be able to better understand our surroundings, our environment, as well as people. And so telling someone to not do something is not what drives people to go and do that thing. It's the curiosity behind it.
So the idea that covering up more of oneself and making it more taboo to talk about certain things, and the more we hide it and make it bad, that's just going to make people do more bad shit. No.
Not at all. Not at all. I think there's social pressure. And I think modesty could also be tied into social pressure, where if you have a culture or religion that has this certain concept or idea of modesty or what modesty should be, you're going to have more people stepping in line because they don't want to be ostracized from society. So there's a societal pressure there. However, if you have a number of women on OnlyFans, right, and they're preaching on their social media to young individuals who are extremely impressionable that OnlyFans is the way to go. You can make so much money, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have a lot of impressionable people who are feeling societal pressure to move into that direction. This is true regardless of what culture or regardless of what religion you're in. It's dependent on the individual, but it's also dependent on the society that you live in. So just saying that, oh, it's bad, modesty is bad, that's not really an argument, and it doesn't really make sense because modesty could be seen in a number of different ways, right? Modesty could be not wearing a thong to the beach, right? When there's children present, don't wear clothes that are, hugging too closely to your body, right? As a very loose example. Modesty could also be wearing a specific type of clothing to church, right? So that's a different type of modesty. It's based on a religious philosophy. This idea, right, that modesty in of itself is bad is why we're in the situation we're in right now, where so many kids are addicted to porn or starting OnlyFans accounts when they turn 18. You have all these different issues plaguing society. You have women dressing extremely provocatively when they go out clubbing or when they go out to bars. And as a whole, I think being provocative for the sake of being provocative is unhealthy, right? That's my opinion. I don't understand why people want to try and defend it so heavily and want to say that, anyone who criticizes people who dress like prostitutes are bad people. I think the criticism is perfectly valid, and I don't think that this person who's suggesting that doing the provocative thing is better than doing the modest thing has a good leg to stand on.
No, the way to do it would be to do the opposite of that. If we just normalized all of us being human biological entities, like nudity is much more accepted in a lot of other cultures.
You're walking a very tight line here, okay? You're on the fringe of basically saying that nothing matters and you can just do whatever you want because we're all quote unquote human entities, and so any human behavior that exists should be normalized. That's extremely bad, okay? And I don't need to go into the details of why that's extremely bad. I hope you're smart enough to figure it out. If you're not, you shouldn't be watching this video to begin with. This blows me away, okay? This blows me away that we have to have this conversation that no, we should not be normalizing every single human behavior that has ever existed throughout mankind, right? Otherwise, slavery could return very easily. Slavery still exists in some parts of the world. We're blessed to be living, at least I'm blessed to be living in a place where it doesn't exist. However, I don't think this is a well thought out, this isn't a good logical stance, okay? This is not like a strong logical position to hold, is this idea that because it happened in the past, it's okay now, or because, you know, whatever it might, like whatever this is that because modesty was in the past that we need to get rid of it because we're progressive and we're modern, right? That modesty was, oh, that's olden times, right? That's from the past. We should get rid of that. That's a bad concept. That's a bad idea to have.
It's a relic of freaking, I don't want to get back into all the history of it. That's beyond.
Yeah, see, it's the history aspect of it, right? So this person wants to suggest that because it's from the past, that it must be bad, right? And that's how I feel like schools are teaching kids nowadays, that history in general was all bad. There were no positives, and you know how we're living today, we've got it all figured out, including the OnlyFans girls. They have it all figured out.
On the scope of this video, but I used to have quite a bit of shame, I suppose, and now I don't, and it's freaking amazing. It's very liberating, and people be like, oh, well, if people could just walk around topless, then like, it's dude's job to control their.
What's crazy about this, right? This person saying he doesn't have any shame. That's scary, right? That's a scary thought. Shame is a great emotion because it directs you in a very good direction. And if you squash or crush your shame out of existence, right? For things that you should, this is your moral compass talking, right? And you're pulling the iron magnet out of the compass, and you're basically saying that, you know, I don't need this anymore, right? You're like Gilligan from Gilligan's Island, and you're pulling the little metal piece out of the compass, and you think that somehow you're going to find your way, and you're just going to end up lost. Okay, this is extremely sad and extremely damaging for society as a whole when individuals start questioning their own moral compass and saying, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I could do this one thing because I'm a human entity and I can do whatever I want, right? Like I'm a free thinking person. I live in America. I have my own mind. I can think for myself. Let me just do some really degenerate stuff." Right. So that's the concept. It's damaging because all of us have to live together in society. And when you have people like this who think it's appropriate to just do whatever they want because they are, quote unquote, a human entity, that's ridiculous. OK, and we all have to suffer through it.
You know, urges. It's not people's jobs. And I say dudes because generally that's who it is. But it applies to all genders. If it was normalized, they wouldn't care. Like if you go to nudist places, nobody's like standing around gawking at each other. People are just doing what they do because nobody cares because you're just a part of.
That's half true, I'm guessing. I'm guessing there's plenty of people who do go to nudist beasts that are there for other reasons.
Life. It's the fact that it's taboo that makes it the problem to begin with. Like
No, not at all, right? Encouraging promiscuity in society has only shown to have a negative impact on the whole. So I don't agree with this at all. I don't think a society that is highly promiscuous ever ends up surviving the test of time. I really don't. I'd be interested to see someone who can provide a source on the contrary for that. But as of right now, all I have ever seen is that it seems like there's a trend between, I'd say, communities, specifically communities or populations, that as they increase in promiscuity, the overall stability of that, you know, community or that population decreases. So this isn't, I'm like, that's out of my ass. Like I'm making that shit up, but like, dude, I'm rolling with it because it sounds true. It makes sense, right? It makes sense. Like, how could you have a highly promiscuous society succeed when promiscuity destroys relationships when it comes to the family, which is the core function or the core foundation of any society is a strong family, right? So you have a small group of families, right? That's your community. That's your local community, whether it's like, you know, your neighborhood or whatever it might be. How are you going to have even a strong, small knit community when you have everyone sleeping with one another? You don't know whose kids are whose, and like you're just encouraging promiscuity. That seems like it would already start to destroy the foundation that an actual civilization would be built off of. That's what I'm seeing in America, right? That's what I'm seeing. This is what I'm observing, right? So this is my observation. So I could be wrong. It could be, you know, this is my personal experience, and obviously I only get to see what I see. I don't get to see what everyone else sees, but it makes sense to me, right? Like the core foundation of any society is the family. It's the family unit. And so what happens when you start to tear down the family unit? Society starts to crumble. How do you tear down the family unit? You start promoting and pushing promiscuity, OnlyFans, pornography, distancing people so that they're not spending more time together, right? Things like that seem to me be the core issues that are slowly start to erode the foundation that is community and society as a whole.
Cover up and hide what they are. That's just kind of ridiculous. You don't see that in nature, do you? So, not that I'm saying that everybody should have to go be a nudist or anything. Excuse me while I order tacos. All right, I'm back.
You know, one of the big things is that we don't get to really compare ourselves to wild animals because we're not, right? We have a conscience. We know that we exist and we understand our own existence. We understand our place in the universe because we actually have the ability to look inward to ourselves and think and be like self-critical and identify, things that the average quote unquote animal would not be able to identify. So I think this idea that like, because we're conscious, we have a higher level of responsibility to ourselves, right? To not just lower ourselves to an animalistic standard of like, have sex with anything that walks, right? Like we have a higher standard that we need to achieve. And that standard does not include enslaving people. It's sad that it took so long for us to figure that out, at least in the West. But, looking at it as a whole, humans still haven't figured it out because there's still human slaves. There's still human sex trafficking. There's still so many issues that we haven't figured out because we're incapable of working together. Because I guess humans love violence. It's my guess. I have no idea. I think we have a propensity for war and for violence, and we're seeing that right now between Iran and Israel. And unfortunately, I think that's just human nature. I think human nature comes from a place of survival. And unfortunately, our brain is wired for survival, which involves every so often violence. It's not justification. I think we have a consciousness which should overcome that animalistic instinct, because I think nowadays we shouldn't really have a need for war anymore. But for some reason, the people at the top deem it so, and so fall in line.
Anyways, I'm not saying that everybody should just automatically go out and be a nudist now, although I do have quite a few fascinating thoughts about like OnlyFans and that whole area.
The only thing with the nudist beach thing, that is less modesty influence because you're going specifically to a place where nudity is it's pretty much expected, right? There's a difference between modesty, which involves you going to a public place, such as a restaurant or a bar or wherever, out in a grocery store, and not having to stare at someone's nipples poking through their shirt, right? Not having to look at someone's butthole on camera when they're at the gym filming themselves for their OnlyFans promotion, right? These are things that are called modesty, right? You want these things in society. Nudist beaches are specifically for nudists, people who understand they're going to a place where they will be seeing this, they will be that, and so there's no comparison to be made there because it's a completely different environment. It's like if you went to the jungle and you were out in the jungle living with, tribesmen, and everyone's wearing a loincloth, and you're going to be staying there for 10 years, odds are you're going to end up at the end of the 10 years wearing a loincloth. That's just the most likely thing. Okay, right? It's a societal thing. It's a cultural thing. You're going to want to either fit in, or maybe your clothes just tatter and that's all you have to wear. But if you're going to a certain place, you should be expecting whatever. When in Rome, right? It's the exact same concept. When in Rome, when at a nudist beach, when at the grocery store, don't show me your butthole. Please. Thank you.
But generally, we just need less toxicity, less malevolent. Yeah. But
this is such an anti-intellectual person. Okay, this is someone who doesn't actually want to do the hard work of thinking through this problem. They just want to have their point of view out there in public. That's it, right? There is no critical thought process happening here. There is no there's no retrospective. There's no looking inwards into his soul, right? We're trying to better understand the issue and trying to, have a more nuanced take on this, right? No one is saying that you can't have a nudist beach. Right? There's never been an argument for that, and no one's criticizing nudists who go to a nudist beach for not being modest. That's never been a question, right? And so the issue is with OnlyFans and all these people who are basically uploading themselves naked onto Instagram, social media, OnlyFans, whatever it is, right? You have an issue where you have a society that is slowly becoming more and more, well, it was slowly, it's becoming more and more rapidly becoming promiscuous. You're left with people who feel disenfranchised, who feel left out of society, specifically young men. They turn to porn because it's the only sexual gratification they can actually get. And now what you have is a society of men and women who both don't feel respected and don't feel loved in society. And that only builds animosity towards the other sex, which there are only two. And it's just, it spirals, right? This is a spiraling issue that it seems like not a lot of people understand what's really going on, and they can't really get a grasp on what the issue is. right? The issue is people. And how do you fix people? You can't. Okay. I don't know. Like maybe less therapy, because it seems like every day I hear people saying get more and more therapy, more and more therapy. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe people are getting too much therapy. Everyone's drugged up on antidepressants. Everyone's got some sort of mental health issue. Everyone's on TikTok posting about how they've got some brain disease or some shit. I'm sick and tired of it. Like this is what's crazy to me is the fact that we know so much and yet we know so little. It blows me away. It's like common sense is just out the window.
But darkness is not the way to do that. Hiding from it doesn't fix it. You have to bring that into the light. Into the light.
See, I don't want to bring stuff that's bad into the light, right? I mean, like, unless you're shining a light on someone or something that is bad that's happening to bring awareness to it and to try and solve the problem. But bringing out bad things into the light as an act of normalizing those bad things is extremely dangerous and not progressive whatsoever, right? If you want to send us back to the caveman times, by all means, keep pushing your agenda, right? Keep pushing forward with all this liberal nonsense, because that's where we're headed, right? We're headed to the caveman times because we're going to start a nuclear war if we're not careful. With all the stuff going on in Iran and Israel, you'd expect people to be like all up in arms and protesting the war. But no, people are not doing that. People seem to be pretty content not doing anything. And that's just how it is now. That's just the way it is. And it's like, how are you supposed to argue with people on that? How are you supposed to like convince people that they should be doing something? How do you convince someone like this to try and think through the problem more clearly on a more step-by-step basis rather than just jumping to the conclusion and then filling out all the gaps with whatever helps them get to that end conclusion? Because that's what I feel like the left has been doing a lot of, is they come up with an end conclusion and then they BS their way to it, right? So they'll see where they want to go or what they want things to be. Oh, the system is racist. How do I get there? White people racist, white people bad. It's systemic. Whatever it might be. But it doesn't track, right? Like if you start at the beginning and you try to take a step-by-step action to get to that conclusion, you'll never get there because the steps don't lead you there, right? You're not following a path of logic. You're jumping to the end and then trying to build a path backwards. I don't know. Anyways, I just wanted to make a video about this because I saw this and it's Modesty is so crazy is the title of the video. And I thought this video was so crazy. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm curious what you guys think. Am I off the mark? Am I a crazy person? Yeah, I mean, probably, I guess. Oh, well. Time to get on antidepressants, right, guys? I'm just joking. It's a joke. 17 minutes. Dude, I did not ramble for that long. 17 minutes and 35 seconds. Wow. Well, thanks for sticking around. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Drop a like, sub if you want. I like making videos. I like people who support my videos. If you don't support my videos, I like you too. You're cool. I wish you supported my videos or liked them. But if you don't, that's okay too. All right. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.